Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good
Good
afternoon,
afternoon,
sir.
sir.
Good
Good
afternoon,
afternoon.
sir.
Okay, so in order to finish your syllabus, I had to take this class from Saini sir, and because next week I won't be able to get a class. No, I'll get only on Monday, so that's why I took this class from him. So, what was the thing we were discussing in the last class? Can somebody please tell?
Interference.
Oh,
Interference.
had we finished interference? इंटरफेरेंस तो पता है बट एग्जैक्टली कहाँ पर थे did we dis- did we discuss the thin film interference due to division of amplitude from a parallel thin film? Did I discuss Stokes relation?
No, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
कौन बोला no? Who said no? So we discussed Stokes relation, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But that thin parallel film we didn't discuss. I'm asking to all of you. Did we discuss this thin parallel film?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
So we are discussing this one. Stokes relation, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
But I asked you to come with a clarification for the other one. Anyway, now let's discuss how to obtain two coherent sources of light from a single source by the method of division of amplitude by reflection and refraction. Okay, how to obtain? Still, people are coming. Okay, so let's start. Here we are going to discuss how to obtain two coherent light sources or two coherent light beam from a single beam or single source by using the method of division of amplitude or by using the method of reflection and refraction. Okay, so here is the arrangement. Is it visible? Is my slide visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Here is the arrangement. Here it is a thin film. Thin film means it can be sort of any liquid, transparent liquid, partially transparent liquid, or it can be glass plate, or it can be anything. Okay, but it's quite thin. Okay, here it is the thin film. So to this thin film, as we were discussing, uh, okay, this is last. Okay, to this thin film, when you will incident a light, when you will incident a light, what will happen? Some part of that light will be reflected from this first interface separating air and medium. Okay, and that beam let represent that as R1, first reflected light, reflected beam, and some part will be refracted into the medium. Okay, of which the refractive index is mu. And after reaching at the other interface of the medium, which is again separating the medium from the air, that will again get reflected. Some part of it will again get reflected, some part will be refracted, that is called T1, refracted beam, and some part will be reflected back. And after reaching here in the first interface, again after the reflection from the second interface, that will reach to this first interface. Okay, and after reaching here, some part will again get reflected, and let's term that as R2, and some part will be reflected back. Okay, that will be the first one. So likewise, we can we can generate various coherent beams from a single beams by the method of reflection, or we can generate various transmitted beam, coherent transmitted beam from the same source A, and they're represented as T1 and T2. So here we are going to discuss only reflected case. Okay, I'm going to discuss only reflected case. Now till the point B, till the point EB, both R1 and R2 are traveling a similar distance in the same medium. Okay, till the moment point B, both R1 and R2 and R2 got generated from A, right? They are part of A. So till that point B, both R1 and R2 are traveling a same distance in a similar medium. And from here, R1 is getting reflected directly, and R2 is getting generated after reflection from the second interface, and refraction, twice refraction from the first interface. There are two refraction happening for R2. Two refractions are happening in the first interface, and one reflection is happening in the second interface. I am treating this above one as the first interface, and the below one is the second interface. And after that, we are getting this R2 is getting generated. Now, if I draw a vertical line here from R1 to R2, joining this point D, if I draw a vertical line, then I can say that from this point onward, both R1 and R2 are going to again travel a similar distance in the similar medium. Okay. Till the point B, both R1 and R2 are traveling a similar distance in similar medium. And from this line ND, from this line ND, both R1 and R2 are going to travel the similar distance in similar medium. So whatever path difference getting incurred or getting added in between them, whatever path difference is getting added between them, is nothing but the extra path traveled by this R2. What extra path traveled this R2 has traveled? This BC plus CD. This is the extra path traveled by R2 minus the extra path traveled by R1, that is equal to Bn. Okay. So R1, beyond this similar path and similar medium, what extra path traveled by R1? That is Bn in the medium 1 or air, and BC plus CD in medium 2 or the film medium. Okay. So the path difference between them will be equal to this path BC plus this path CD minus this path BN. Okay, BC plus CD minus BN. So the path difference between them can be written as delta equal to mu into BC plus CD minus BN. Now you may ask why that mu factor is coming, because the phase difference depend upon the speed of the light. Okay, we are finally going to get the phase difference. Okay, how the phase is changing, and the phase difference depend upon the speed of the light, velocity of the light in a medium. And since the refractive index of the medium is different, the velocity will be different. Okay, so we have to include the refractive index here in order to find out the phase difference. That's why we do not call this as a physical path difference, we call this as an optical path difference. When you are multiplying the refractive index of the medium to the physical path, then that is going to give you the optical path. So here we are going to calculate the optical path difference. So in that way, we must have a refractive index term in this also, mu into Bn. But since the refractive index of air is 1, here we have considered one medium as air, refractive index of air is 1. That's why we are not including that as 1. Okay, so 1 we are just removing. Otherwise, if this would have been some different medium, these would have been two different mediums having refractive indices mu1 and mu2, then here we must have written delta equal to mu1 into BC plus CD minus mu2 into Bn. But since mu2 is equal to 1 air in this case, so we are neglecting that. Okay, not neglecting that, that is already there, but we are not writing that. Okay, so the optical part, that means we are trying to find out here the optical path difference between these two coherent sources generated R1 and R2 from A. Okay, so that optical path difference will be equal to delta equals to mu into BC plus CD, mu into BC plus CD minus Bn. Okay, this is the optical path. And if we once we find out that, we can afterwards tell whether these two will interfere constructively or destructively, depending upon their path difference or phase difference. Okay, now we'll use little bit of geometry in triangle BDN. This is triangle BD and N. In this triangle BDN, can you observe it on the figure? Triangle BDN, can you guys see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, in this triangle BDN, this angle will be equals to I, where I is the incidence angle of this light A of this beam. I is the incidence angle, and if you use little bit of geometry, then you'll come to know that this angle BDN will be equals to I. This angle BDN will be equals to I, and since this is a projection, this is a vertical, this angle will be 90 degree. So by using Pythagoras theorem, we can write sine of this angle I equals to Bn divided by Bd. Sine of I equals to Bn divided by Bd. Okay, and BC equals to CD. What is this? BC equals to CD. BC equal to CD means as long as the medium is homogeneous, medium is same everywhere, the angle of refraction here will be the angle of incidence here. Okay, the angle of refraction in the first interface will be the angle of incidence in the second interface of the same light beam. These are called alternate angles, I think, right? Now, if the angle of incidence here is R, the angle of reflection will also be R according to Snell's law. So this angle and this angle are going to same. Okay, and if these two angles are same, and this is 90 degree, so we can write this as BC equals to CN. As long as these two are completely parallel, we can write BC equals to CD. Okay, since triangle BNC and triangle MCD are similar. Okay, so substitute these values over here. Substitute this BC equals to CD and this BN equal to BD sine I. I can substitute this BN equal to BD sine I, and this BC equal to CD or CD equal to BC. I can substitute. So the above equation can be written as twice of mu of BC minus BD sine I. Twice of mu of BC minus BD sine I. Now come to this triangle BMC. In the triangle BMC, this angle is 90 degree. This angle is R, angle of refraction in the first interface, which is the angle of incidence in the second interface. So in that triangle BMC, I can write that cos R equal to this MC divided by BC. cos r equals to this MC divided by BC. Now, since this is a thin film whose thickness is uniform everywhere, okay, this is called a parallel thin film whose thickness is uniform everywhere. So this MC can be treated as the thickness of the film. This MC can be written as the thickness of the film. So cos r, cosine of angle of refraction, this cos r can be written as T divided by BC. Okay, so BC can be written as T divided by cos r. Now, in the same triangle, what is 10R? 10R will be equals to BM divided by MC. Okay, P by B. 10R equals to BM divided by MC. So 10R I can write as BM divided by T. Okay, so if I'll substitute these two values over this equation, then delta can be written as 2 mu T divided by cos R. In place of BC, I substituted T divided by cos R, and in place of BM, I substituted to T10R. Sorry, T10R. In place of BM, I substituted T10R. So this equation can be written as 2 mu T divided by cos R minus 2T10R. Okay. Sin I is already there. Now this can be solved little bit. How? Now this 10R can be written as sin R divided by cos R, and from Snell's law of reflection, I can write mu equal to sin I by sin R. So sin mu into sin R can be written as sin. Sorry. What mistake I was doing? Mu can be written as sin I divided by sin R, and this can be written as what mistake I'm doing?
Sir, we are replacing sin I by mu sin r.
Okay, right. We are replacing. So yeah. There is no mu here. Sorry. There is no mu here. We are replacing sin I by mu sin r. So if I replace that, and 10r can be written as sin r by cos r. So this can be written as sin square r divided by cos r. So 2 mu t cos r can be taken common out, and 1 minus sin square r will be equal to cos square r, and cos square r cos r will be cancelled to give you the total optical path difference equals to 2 mu t cos r. Total optical path difference is equal to 2 mu t cos r. What is this path difference? This is the path difference between this R1 component of light, R1 beam, and R2 beam, which are getting generated from this A. Okay. Now, with this, there is an additional thing. What that additional thing is? This additional thing is arising due to that Stokes law, which says that when you are traveling from a rarer medium to denser medium, at the point of reflection, you are going to add an extra additional path difference of lambda by 2. Okay, so that additional path difference will be there in between these two rays. Okay, this R1 and R2. So you have to add this extra additional path difference of 2 mu t cos r plus lambda by 2. So the total optical path difference between R1 and R2 will be equal to 2 mu t cos r plus lambda by 2. But this kind of thing will not be there in case of transmitter case. Okay, in case of transmitter beams, there will be not extra path difference, extra additional path difference of lambda by 2. So there it will be 2 mu t cos r only. Now, what are the condition of maximum and minimum in case of this parallel thin film? The condition of maxima will be equal to delta equals to optical path difference should be equal to n lambda, integral multiple of lambda. So 2 mu t cos r plus lambda by 2 equal to n lambda. Okay, and condition of minima dark fringes will be equals to delta equals to 2 n plus 1 lambda by 2. If you substitute the value of delta over here, 2 mu t cos r plus lambda by 2 equals to 2n plus 1 lambda by 2, where the values of n goes from 0, 1, 2, 3 like that. Okay, these are the condition of maxima and minimum. This shows that uh, those values of r, those values of angle of refraction. Okay, if you are considering lambda is constant, lambda is not varying. We have considered a monochromatic light source. If A is monochromatic light source, and the angle of incidence and angle of refraction is also same. No, here thickness is same. Here thickness is same. Those those angle of refraction for which this condition is getting satisfied, you are going to get constructive interference. And those angle of refraction for which this condition is getting satisfied, you are going to get destructive interference. Here only variable is the angle of refraction, which is nothing but the angle which can be related to angle of incidence also. So if we will change the angle of incidence of this beam A, then sometime these two rays will interfere constructively, and sometimes these two rays will interfere destructively, depending upon the value of R, whether it is satisfying this condition or whether it is satisfying this condition. Okay. So similar to this, any doubt on this? No.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Similar to this, there is another case where the thin film is not parallel anymore. The thickness of the thin film is changing from a point, from a vortex. The thickness of the this is the vortex. From the vortex, thickness of the film is increasing. This thin film is not parallel. Such kind of thin films are called wedge shaped thin film. Okay, such kind of thin films are called wedge shaped thin film. The only difference here is that the optical path difference between this R1 and R2 is depending upon angle of refraction is one thing. Okay. Additionally, it is also depending upon the angle of this wedge, Okay, the theta. So the total path difference and the geometry is quite similar. You can do it by yourself. Okay, I have already uploaded the notes. Geometry is little bit different but quite similar. So you can use the geometry to find out the total path difference between the two reflected components of light R1 and R2 coherent sources as delta equal to 2 mu t cos r plus theta instead of 2 mu t cos r, where here where the theta is the angle of the wedge. Okay, this is called the angle of the wedge. Now, similar to the previous case, according to Stokes law, there will be an additional path difference of lambda by 2 between these two components R1 and R2. And if you will include that, then the total path difference, optical path difference between them will be equal to 2 mu t cos r theta, r plus theta plus lambda by 2. This is the expression for optical path difference between the two reflected components of light if you are generating them by using a wedge shaped thin film. Okay. And similar to previous case, again here the conditions of constructive and destructive interference are like this. The condition of constructive and destructive interference are like this. Okay. uh, there is a mistake here. One theta should also come here. Okay, the condition of constructive and destructive interference will include one cos r plus theta. Okay, the conditions of constructive and destructive interference are this. Here the only difference is that along with the dependence on the angle of incidence, the constructive or destructive interference will depend whether the interference will be constructive or destructive. That will also depend upon the place of incidence also, because the thickness of the film is different at different places, and there is a thickness term here, t term here. In earlier case it was depending upon only the angle r, angle of incidence or angle of refraction. Here it is depending upon angle of incidence, angle r, and angle theta. Theta is the angle of the wedge, and also the thickness, which is having different value at different places. Okay, so this is the difference of this wedge set thin film from the previous one. Okay, parallel thin film. And in case of Newton's ring experiment, we will be using a wedge shaped thin film in order to generate fringe pattern. And let's discuss how to do that. Okay. Any doubt here? See, the geometry is simple, quite similar. You can do the geometry by your own at your home. There is a mistake here. This should be r plus theta. I will correct that and send it to you. The only difference is the uh, whether the components R1 and R2 will interfere constructively or destructively. That depend upon the angle of incidence also, the angle of wedge also, and the thickness of the film also at which the light is being incident. Okay, now let's discuss how to use this information of optical path difference in a wave-shaped thin film to study the Newton's ring. Now, what is Newton's ring? Newton's ring is a concentric, alternate, bright and dark fringe pattern. Okay, Newton's rings, they are concentric rings of alternate bright and dark rings. That's what are called Newton's ring. As you can see in this figure, you will be able to visualize such a fringe system or fringe pattern when you will what to say uh, when you will arrange a Newton's ring experiment, the resultant fringe pattern will look like this. Okay, this is called Newton's ring, and you can see that all the rings, bright and dark rings, are concentric. They are having a common center. Okay, this is called Newton's ring, as it was being first demonstrated by Newton. So this Newton's ring experiment is very important from many point of view. We can find out many things by using this experiment, and we'll discuss how to obtain this Newton's. Now, to obtain a Newton's ring, the first important thing is to form a wedge-shaped thin film. The wedge-shaped thin film can be formed by using a plano-convex lens and keeping that plano-convex lens over a plain glass plate. As shown in this figure, here we are using a plano-convex lens. Plano-convex lens means one side is plane, the other side is convex. Okay, that's called a plano-convex lens. And the radius of curvature of this plano-convex lens is too large. It's quite large, like 2 meter, 3 meter, or 1 meter, like that. Okay, and since the radius of curvature of this plano-convex lens is quite large, you won't be able to visualize. You won't be able to recognize if I give you a plano-convex lens, which we use in Newton's ring. You won't be able to recognize which side is plane side, which side is convex side. It's quite difficult. Okay, why we do so? Why we take a very high radius of curvature plano convex lens, so that the film, which wedge shaped film which is being formed in between the plane glass plate and this plano convex lens is going to be very thin. Okay, to get a thin film, we used to have a plano convex lens of very high radius of curvature. Okay, so when you place this plano convex lens over this glass plate, this will touch at certain point, and from there from there a wedge-shaped thin film will be formed of air. Okay, if you are placing as it is, the thin film will be of air, and if you are placing it over plano-convex lens by just dropping a drop of water over it, or two drops of water over it, that thin film form will be a thin film of water or any liquid. Okay. Anyway, by using this plano-convex lens and a glass plate, we can generate a thin film. Now, once we generate a thin film, as on here, what we'll have to do, we have to use a sodium lamp, and in front of that, just put a slit, a cardboard slit you can use. Just this cardboard slit we are using to make the source a pointed source. Okay, not extended source. If you are using an extended source, you won't be able to visualize the Newton's ring. So in order to obtain a point source, we'll use a small slit in front of the sodium lamp. The sodium lamp we use to emit radiation of wavelength 58 5890 angstrom and 5893 angstrom. Now, after this slit, we will place a convex lens. The job of this convex lens is to collimate this beam from coming out from this point source. Now, the convex lens is placed in a place, or at a point where it will be from where the source will be placed at a. I mean, the source will look like as if it is at the focal length of the plano convex lens. Okay, so this is the focal length of the plano convex lens, and if you are putting a source at the focal length of a lens, then the radiation coming out from the lens, convex lens, will be parallel. Okay, so this convex lens we used to put to collimate the radiation, to have a collimated beam, parallel beam, and that's why we sometimes call this as a collimated lens or collimating lens. Okay, now light beams coming from this collimated light beams coming from this convex lens will be incident on a glass plate. This is a glass plate which is at a 45 degree to the horizontal. Okay, this glass plate is at a 45 degree to the horizontal. What is the purpose of to make it 45 degree? If it is 45 degree, then angle of incidence will be 45 degree, and angle of reflection will also be 45 degree, and you will get a vertical light beam towards this arrangement of plano convex lens and glass plate towards this thin film. We just want to incident a vertical beam of light towards this thin film. So by this by this arrangement of glass plate, we obtained a vertical light beam which is incidenting on this thin film, and from this thin film, when the light is getting incident vertically, like AB, one portion of the light will be reflected from the top surface or top interface of the thin film, that can be treated as BE, and one light beam can be reflected from the bottom interface, okay, bottom interface of the thin film, and that can be treated as CF or DF, and they will interfere either constructively or destructively depending upon the thickness of the film, depending upon the thickness of the film where they are getting incident, depending upon that thickness, because the angle wave shaped angle is constant, and the angle of refraction is zero here, right? Because we are incidentating a vertical light beam, we just made this light beam vertical in order to make sure that the angle of refraction is zero. Okay, otherwise what will happen, that will angle of, if the angle of refraction is changing, it's difficult to generate a Newton sig. Okay, so we made it vertical so that angle of refraction will be zero, and if angle of refraction is zero, then path difference will be equal to 2 mu to cos theta only, where theta is the angle of this wedge, and this path difference, depending upon the thickness of the film at that point, the two beams or two reflected beams will either interfere constructively or destructively. Okay, now how to get rings? Because because we are using a plano convex lens which is a three-dimensional, that is a cut from a sphere. The this thickness condition will be uniform, or this thickness will be same over a circular patch. Okay, this thickness, whatever thickness t you are getting here, this thickness will be uniform or same over a circular patch. So over entire circle, this condition of constructive or destructive interference will be satisfied over an entire circle, and depending upon the condition, whether it is constructive or destructive, you will get either bright ring or a dark ring. That's how we are going to form a Newton ring. Now, how to visualize this Newton ring? The size of actual size of this Newton ring are typically in the range of few millimeter, like 3 millimeter, 5 millimeter, depending upon the lens size. Okay, 3 to 5 millimeter or 6 millimeter maximum. So, how to visualize them in naked eye? We cannot do that. So we use a microscope to visualize this Newton ring. This Newton ring will be formed over this glass plate, plane side of this convex lens. This is where the Newton ring will form. And how to visualize? By using a microscope. Okay, by using a microscope, we can visualize them. Now this is the real experimental setup. As you can see here, it is a microscope. The microscope can be focused. Its eyepiece can be moved up and down by using this screw in order to focus the Newton ring properly. This is the cardboard inside which the sodium lamp is there. There is a glass plate at 45 degree here. There is a plano convex lens sitting over a plain glass plate is lying below, and that's how we can generate a Newton ring. And here is this setup in from a vertical position, from a vertical view. You can see there is a lens here, plano convex lens here. There is a glass plate. This is glass plate kept at 45 degree. This is the slit from which we are getting the radiation of light. Okay, and just below this lens, so just on the top surface of this plano convex lens, you will obtain a Newton ring. Now, this is an original image of Newton ring that has been captured by camera or mobile camera from this eyepiece. Okay, if you put a camera over here, you'll be able to visualize this kind of fringe pattern. This is called Newton ring. This is an actual or real image of that. As you can see, there are alternate bright and dark rings, concentric rings, and this is called Newton's ring pattern. Now we need to do some measurements using in this Newton's ring. So in order to do the measurement, these vertical and horizontal lines which are crossing it with each other, that is called a crosswire, that we used to make over the telescope by using मकड़ी का that जाल होता है, और उससे हम थ्रेड ले लेते हैं या फिर कोई वेरी थिन हेयर, मकड़ी का जाल को क्या कहते हैं, स्पाइडर
Spider web.
स्पाइडर
Spider.
स्पाइडर वेव, राइट.
Spider.
Yeah, spider web, we used to take one thin hair from the spider web, and we used to place them by using some glue over this microscope so that they can be used as crosswires, because without crosswire these sizes are going to come in micrometer length. The sizes dimension will be in micrometer range. Okay, because there will be a scale over here using which you can measure, you can move this microscope in horizontal direction by using a screw. There is a scale over the microscope on this is a scale. Okay, this is a scale. This scale has two components, one is main scale, one is vernier scale. So using main scale and vernier scale, as you must have done during your 12th standard, using main scale and vernier scale, you can find out the position. Okay, the position of. So if I want to measure the diameter of first dark ring, okay, the center one is called zeroth order rings, zeroth order dark ring. The first one, next one is called first order right ring. Then next one is called first order dark ring, like that. So if I want to measure the diameter of fifth order dark ring, then what I have to do, I have to move this crosswire towards the one side of the fifth order dark ring and place here. Okay, place here. Then I have to move that in the diametrically opposite direction, and I have to keep the crosshair in the fifth order dark ring. Now this distance you can measure over the main scale, which is fitted to this entire setup. A main scale and a vernier scale is fitted to the center setup. By using them, you can find out this distance, and this distance is called the diameter of fifth order dark ring. Okay, so for the convenience of measurement purpose, we have used, or we use a crosswire. Okay, over the microscope. Any doubt over this setup? When you will do practical, you will come to see this setup live through camera, but for time being I'm just using slide to show you. Okay, now, any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, now let's discuss the conditions of bright and dark fringes in the Newton's ring experiment. Okay, the conditions of bright and dark rings in Newton's ring. For wave set film, as we have discussed, the path difference, optical path difference, equal to 2 mu t cos r plus theta plus lambda by 2. This is the path difference between the two reflected component from a wedge shaped thin film, where r is the angle of refraction, theta is the angle of the wedge, t is the thickness of the film. At that point where you are going to see the condition whether it is satisfied or not, and mu is the refractive index of the film. Okay, now in case of this experimental arrangement of Newton's ring, we have used a vertical beam. Okay, by putting that 45-degree angle glass plate, we have used a vertical beam of light. So if it is vertical, the angle of incidence will be equal to zero. So the angle of diffraction will also be zero. So the path difference will come out to be 2 mu t cos theta plus lambda by 2. Just making the things vertical, we got rid of this r component, angle of refraction component, made it easier. Okay. Now, since the radius of curvature of the plano-convex lens is very high, very big, like it will be in the order of few meter or 3-4 meter, like that. Since the radius of curvature is too large, the convex side will look almost flat. Okay, you won't be able to recognize which one is convex side, which one is plane side. Convex side will almost look like a flat, having a very narrow slope, having a very I mean uh, calm slope, you can say. So if that is the case, then the angle of the wedge in this case, the angle of this wedge, this angle can be treated as very small. Okay, this angle of this wedge shaped thin film can be treated as very small. And if theta is small, then cos theta can be treated as 1, right? If theta is small, approximately equal to 0, then cos theta can be treated as 1. So the optical path difference can be reduced from this form to this form as 2 mu t plus lambda by 2. Just for the sake of mathematics, for the sake of understanding, we are taking these approximations. And in experimental arrangement also, you will find that this theta value is very small, very small. Now, at the point of contact, at the point where this plano-convex lens is touching the plane glass plate, at this point of contact, the value of thickness T will also be 0. Thickness of what? Thickness of the film. At the point of contact, the value of thickness of the film will also be equals to 0. So, at the point of contact means at center where it is touching the plane glass plate, the path difference will be equal to simply lambda by 2. The path difference will be equal to simply lambda by 2. Okay. Now, if the path difference is lambda by 2, then this is satisfying the condition of destructive interference. This is an integral multiple of lambda by 2. That's why it is satisfying the condition of destructive interference. That is the reason why the central fringe is going to be a dark one. That's called central fringe or zeroth order fringe also, you can say. Okay. In the past path difference, that means I just mean to say that all the lights which are coming directly and falling over here over the center, and they are getting reflected back again, they will have a path difference of lambda by 2 due to Stokes, because all other parameters are 0. This is a beam, entire beam is coming, and from this entire beam some lights are going to directly incident over this point where the convex lens is touching the plane glass plate. Okay, and for those the path difference is going to be equal to lambda by 2, which is nothing but an integral multiple of lambda by 2. So it is satisfying the condition of destructive interference. So the central fringe is going to be a dark fringe. Okay, so this is integral, and hence the central fringe is a dark fringe, and this is called central fringe. इसका कोई order नहीं होता है, we don't have any order for that. The central fringe is called dark fringe, is the dark fringe. Okay, on the other hand, this similar kind of Newtonsing you can be able to, or you will be able to generate by using the refracted beam of light also. Okay, from the thin film and the other way, other side, back side. If you are framing by forming a Newtonsing and observing a Newtonsing in the using the refracted beam of light, the central fringe will be a bright fringe, because in that case there will be no additional path difference of lambda by 2. If the additional path difference of lambda by 2 is not there, the light which is coming from that point is going to be having zero path difference. That's the reason why it is called that's the reason why you'll see a bright fringe in case of refracted light. Okay, so that's the difference. Now let's find out the other orders of fringes, in which case the fringe will be dark and which case the fringe will be white or bright. For maxima, bright rings. Okay, for maxima, the path difference should be a multiple of lambda. For maxima, the path difference should be a multiple of lambda. If I substitute the value of the path difference equals to 2 mu t plus lambda by 2, then I can find out that 2 mu t equals to 2n minus 1 lambda divided by 2, where n can vary from uh, 1 to 3 like that. Okay, for n equal to 1, this will be lambda by 2, right? Right. For n equals to 1, this will be lambda by 2. 2 into 1 minus 1 lambda by 2. Correct. For n equals to 1, this will be lambda by 2. And this shows that the thickness of the film, the the position of the film, where the thickness is such that 2 mu t equals to plus minus 2n minus 1 lambda by 2 is going to give you a bright ring. Okay, the position of the thin film or the circular ring of the thin film at which the thickness of the film is such that 2 mu t equals to plus minus 12 minus 1 lambda by 2, that ring is going to be a bright one. Okay, for example, this is a bright one. Okay, now the value of n can be 1, 2, 3 like that. For n equals to 1, whatever bright ring you will be getting, that is called first order bright ring. For n equals to 2, whatever bright ring you will be getting, that is called second order bright ring. So for n equals to 1, you'll be getting this bright ring. This is called first order bright ring after central dark ring. And for n equals to 1, you will get this ring, that is called second order bright ring. Okay, so the values of n are going to tell which order of ring it is, which order of fringe it is. Okay, similarly for dark rings, for minima dark rings, the path difference should be equal to 2n plus 1 lambda by 2. Path difference should be equal to 2n plus 1 lambda by 2, where n varies from 0, 1, 2 like that. Okay, so here, no, for n equals to 0, you are getting a central dark fringe. For n equals to 0, you are getting a central dark fringe. Here n is going to vary from 1 to onward. Okay, so here n is going to vary from 1, 2, 3 like that. Here n is going to vary from 1 to 2, 3 like that. So for n equals to 0, you are going to get lambda by 2, which is central dark fringe. We are not ordering them. We are not going to give that a order. Okay, by plus 1 lambda by 2, that means 2 mu t equals to n plus minus n lambda. So the circular patch or the circular ring for which the thickness of the film will be such that 2 mu t equal to 2 mu t equals to plus minus n lambda, that ring will be a dark ring. Okay, that will be a dark ring. For except beyond the central fringe, beyond the central fringe which is coming from a for n equals to 0, for n equals to 1, you will be getting this ring. This is called first order dark ring. For n equals to 2, you will be getting this ring. That is called second order dark fringe, and so on. For n equals to 3, you will get third order dark ring, and so on. This is the magnified version of the real image. Okay. So depending upon the value of n, here n goes from 1 to 3 like that. Here also n goes from 1 to 3 like that, because n equals to 0 is going to give you the central dark fringe. Okay. Yes.
Sir,
Yeah.
so the central dark fringe would be first order dark or second zero order.
उसको हम जीरो ऑर्डर कहते हैं,
Okay.
उसको
तो
हम
आप वन से
ऑर्डर,
बोल रहे हो वो जीरो से
हाँ, उसको हम जीरो ऑर्डर कहते हैं, उसको हम नाम ही नहीं देते, उसको सेंट्रल फ्रिंज कहते हैं, सेंट्रल डार्क फ्रिंज. वी डोंट गिव एनी नेम टू दैट. गॉट इट. उसके बाद फर्स्ट ऑर्डर, सेकंड ऑर्डर, थर्ड ऑर्डर ऐसा
yes.
नहीं. ठीक है. सो दिस इज हाउ वी फॉर्म न्यूटन सिंग. और थोड़ा सा पढ़े या फिर नेक्स्ट क्लास देखते हैं.
Next class, sir.
नेक्स्ट क्लास से
Okay, next class I'll
नेक्स्ट
finish
क्लास में पढ़ेंगे सर.
Newton thing and the interference. Next class I'll finish interference, and up to interference is your syllabus. Your syllabus is up to interference only. There is no diffraction. So I'm planning to finish in next class. Since I am going to get one more class only in the next week on Monday. That's why I thought of taking an extra class today. Without this, I could not have finished in the next class in a good way. But yes, that's the reason I took this extra class. Anyway, please send your attendance. We'll continue. I have already uploaded this entire slides, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
यस सर. ये वो
Okay. बाकी चीजें काफी आसान भी है. Those are easy, not going to be quite difficult. So you can study if you want, or if you can wait till Monday. That's also fine. I'll discuss whatever left with the Newton thing in the next class. Then last topic is Fresnel biplane. That also I'll discuss. Okay. So your syllabus is up to this only, up to Fresnel biplane. Got it?
यस सर.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So please send me your attendance. यहाँ पर मत लिखो यार, मैं ये बंद कर देता हूँ. क्या यार, चलो ठीक. सीआर कौन है? हु इज सीआर?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you send a screenshot and give me, or else can you just tell me who are absent?
Yes, sir. I'm taking
Yes, sir.
attendance. I will tell you.
These are 89 students, 89 people, including me. So 88 students are there. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Just
sir.
tell me who two are missing. That's it.
Okay, sir.
Just give me a WhatsApp message. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you. See you on Monday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
Can we
Thank you,
get
sir.
this? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.